All right, so welcome back. If you're new here, just welcome. And I want to go over this Draftkings trade that I'm in. I've been in this thing for quite a while, and I went into the trade knowing that I could be holding this for a while. It was kind of a long-term idea, and it was something that I just wanted to sell covered calls on. So that was kind of the point of it. I bought 100 shares right away and then immediately sold a covered call. So I'll actually bring up the position here. So if we look, 4/9 was the first day that I bought this. So I bought 100 shares at 12.18, and then 4 minutes later I ended up selling a covered call for $90. So if you're not familiar with what a covered call is, all it is a contract saying that you're willing to sell your shares to someone else at a specific price by a specific date. So in the case of this call, I said I was willing to sell my shares at $65.50 by April 16th, 2021. If it hits that price by that date, then I sell my shares. If it doesn't hit the price by that date, I keep my shares and I keep the $90 that I sold it for. About 3 hours later, I ended up buying it back to close it for $56. So I sold it for $90, bought it back for $56, so I ended up keeping $34 in about 3 hours. And then 8 minutes later, I ended up selling a different one for $64. So that was kind of the idea with this whole trade, was I was going to buy 100 shares and then keep selling calls until I get signed or until I get my shares called away from me. So this little rectangle here is the date that I bought it, this 4/9. I bought it right around the $63 range, and you can see the next day it ended up dropping, which in the case of a covered call is actually a good thing, because when the stock price goes down, your call value goes up. So you actually make money on the call as the price drops. So over the next couple of weeks here, I just kept selling covered calls, and then the price got hit pretty hard right here. Dropped all the way down to 39 from 63. So right around here, this 5.6, 5.7 range, I actually started adding to this position. So I had 100 shares originally, and then I started adding 10 share increments as the price was falling so I could lower my average. So I ended up buying 10 at 49, 10 at 47, 10 at 45, 10 at 44, another 10 a week later at 44, and at that time I had 50 shares bought and I had 50 more that I was going to buy, so I ended up buying the last 50 to get to another 100 shares on 5/21. So 5/21 was actually right here, and this was the reason that I bought the last 50 shares, because I really like the pattern coming out of this. So now here, if we look at the hourly chart, we have a nice horizontal resistance line right here, and then we have this trend line here, and this is making a perfect ascending triangle. So that's why I ended up buying it on the 21st, right in this range. So I had a good feeling about buying it here. That's why I added the last 50, and then it ended up having a nice strong run right after that. So after I bought that last 50, my average is actually in the 54 range. So right about in here is where my average is, right at this 54 level. So I was actually break even for a little bit on it, but I just decided I wanted to keep selling calls on it. So here's the positions that I'm currently in. So if you look at this thing, it actually shows that I'm down $1,200 because it's calculating it off of my 54.85 average that I have. So here is one block of 100 shares, and here is one block of 100 shares. So I have two separate covered calls open. I have a 56 strike for August that I collected $96 for, and then this one is just a longer dated 55, just to see what happens with this one. So 55 strike, this one's actually for January, but I collected $420 for that one. So again, with this stock, I'm willing to hold this thing long term. I'm willing to sell my shares at 55, even if I have to hold that one for a while. What I'm really hoping to see here is something like this, and break out to the upside of this little wedge that it's making. What I really wanted to show with this one is my cost basis after selling all of the calls over the last couple months on this thing. So I started at $63 a share. I'm now at $54 a share, but I've also sold $1,122 worth of call options on this thing. I know there's kind of a lot of them here, but basically what this is showing is I sold one for 90, bought it back for 56, sold 64, bought it back for 30, and then I sold one for 264, bought it back for 69. So I was selling calls even when I was really far down on it. Like this week, I only collected $10 for this one, and a couple of them were pretty low, but I was just consistent with it and kept doing it. So now I have $1,122 if I just let this thing ride. I do have this one open right here, which I'll collect $420 on, and this one right here I'll collect $96 on. So that's what brings my total to 1100. So even though my average on the share price is 54.85, I'm technically up on this trade right now. I'm up $18 because my cost basis is actually $49 after selling the covered calls. So I think that's a pretty cool thing, especially on a stock that you're holding long term and you're down on it. But if it does run and it hits 55 and my shares get called away, I'm okay with that too. So that's really all I wanted to show in this one. Something to consider if you are down on a trade and you have 100 shares. I know people are usually concerned about when you sell a call and then the price runs and you lose your shares. So that's always a consideration. But that's what I've been doing with DraftKings, and I'll continue to do this for a little while. I'll probably do another update in a couple weeks and see where we end up.